This is the Walter Bacon podcast where I highlight some of the most practical and game-changing B2B AI startups. And today I'm with my friend Ahikam Kaufman. He's the CEO and co-founder of Safebooks AI. And Safebooks is an agentic financial data platform that allows finance operations teams to deploy AI agents across every financial process. So Ahikam, it's great to have you today.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Walter.
Well, let's get right into the main problem that you're solving with your solution at Safebooks.
Okay, so I'd like to think that in the office of the CFO and CEO, many of the activities are still very manual. The reason for that are two. The first reason is that accountants are not data people. So what powers the office of the CEO and CFO is data integrity, reconciliations, many tasks to meet compliance and business practices requirements. But we're not data people, we're accountants. We can make accounting decisions, but still, because of the complexity of the data, we deploy people to the problem. The second thing is the data itself. We use many systems in each process. Think about order to cash. You have CPQ, billing, CRM. You have document management. You have ERP. You have cash, and then the data is structured differently in each of these systems. So the systems talks to each other, but really the data looks different. And when we try to look at everything and check everything, it's very time consuming, very manual, not to mention the fact that we deal with a lot of unstructured data, which is a very nice word to say to a very nice word for documents, right? We need to read documents, we need to read contracts. They have these fine prints and little letters that we need to understand, which impacts our billing and rev rec. So all of that really calls out for a better way to do it. And the reason you want to do it, the reason you want to automate it, in addition, is the fact that when you do it in real time, you can remediate stuff in real time. So you don't have to look back a month or quarter back and start finding all the things that you need to fix. And the ability to find things on a daily basis, you need this workers that doesn't take nights and weekends off, and that's AI. So today, for the first time, we have the technology to look at the data in the office of the CEO, CFO holistically, and be able to execute your policies, find issues, and remediate them in real time. And that's what we do.
Got it. I've heard you talk about the data graph. Can you talk about that a bit?
Right. Data graph is a technology that have been used in many use cases, but not in finance. And basically, it allows the graph connects the graph. Basically, we put on the graph all the data from the various systems. And the graph allows us to connect the quote to the data in Salesforce, to the data from the document, supporting document, call it a contract or an order form, and the billing data and the respective journal entries, and basically providing our agents with the full context and the lineage between the various data sources. So it's as if you're operating your company on a single platform, which none of us do, but the graph makes it all connected. And by doing that, it allows the agents to check and understand the data end to end, check for anomalies, check for discrepancies, check for errors.
Got it. I also heard you talk about the term financial data governance and why that is mission critical today. Can you talk a bit about that?
Right. If you think about most of our issues or risks in finance, whether it's errors, whether it's leakage, whether it's like customer facing issues like billing errors, things like that, whether it's compliance, it's all around the data. Being able to validate the data integrity, accuracy, and completeness across systems. If in a perfect world, we could reconcile all of our transactions on a daily basis, make sure they match our policies, make sure they match each other, make sure they match the source of truth, which is the document, that puts you in a very good position for being able to rely on the data, being able to close the books in like 2 days as opposed to a week, being able to meet all the compliance requirements. Because until now, or until recently, it wasn't even feasible. Even the audit requirements, even the regulatory requirements does not expect you to check all the transactions at all times. But you do want to do that. You want to do that because you want to make sure that the customer doesn't find about issues before you do. That you want to make sure that you don't leave money on the table. You want to make sure you can rely on your data and your revenue and billing data is in the right place at the right time in the right currency. So for all of that reasons and others, basically we came up with the notion that financial data governance needs to be owned by the CFO and could be and could be executed with a machine that understands the data end to end and can help you govern the data on a daily basis, which is, I think, not being able to govern your data and rely on your data is the number one pain in the office of the CFO and CEO. Once the data is there, we know that we can make the right accounting decision. We know we can make the right business decisions. We know that our FP&A models could could be modeled based on the right and accurate data, but that means that the data has to be kept accurate at all times.
Got it. I heard you talk about the ramifications of one single error, like you mentioned the Macy's case. Can you mention something like that? What are the ramifications if you just have one error? How bad could that be?
It happens every single month. I think the recent case I saw, one of the recent cases is Beyond Meat. You can look it up. And at the end of the day, um, there is when you're a public company. By the way, for example, in Europe now, in the UK, even for a private company, and in the US also for certain private company, whether you're owned by private equity or large syndicate of investors, you need to have internal controls and an internal control kind of like roadmap and strategy for your data and business practices. And if you're a public company, the CEO and CFO on a quarterly basis, they sign on a certification that they've developed and maintained such a system of internal controls. When you think about your data, a company that processes hundreds or even thousands of transactions on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, how can you check each of the how can you make sure you didn't double pay? How can you make sure that again all your revenue data or billing data matches the source, matches everything, matches your policies and all of that? The ability now to automate all of that is I think it's the only way to be able to meet the compliance requirements. Now,
Hmm.
until today, because the technology did not exist, you relied on a combination of processes and people. Now, processes and people are great, but people can make mistakes. People, take time off. Sometimes you can have we know there is like a massive accountant shortage in the US where like hundreds of thousands of people actually you see a significant drop in people applying for for the school degrees in finance. So being able to automate all of that can allow you to rest assured that you don't miss any of that. Now, sometimes if you miss if you miss a process and you miss it consistently for a period of time, that mistake could become significant. Maybe not significant to require you to restate your books, but could be significant where internally you need to disclose that to the audit committee. You need to come to the board. And then it triggers all kind of processes which are way unpleasant. I think one of the most important things when you're like a CFO or chief accounting officer, you wanna rest assured that your data is handled properly, right? And what you don't want to be is a situation where your auditors or your team comes to you and say, "Hey, listen, we just identified this flow that has been running for like a couple of months." In the Macy's case, which you've mentioned, a single guy in a very large finance department of probably hundreds of people was responsible for a freight accrual, which was understated. And this caused the company to delay its earning release, to restate its financials. And I think April of 2025, the CFO had to step down, which was, I'm
Hmm.
sure, unfortunate. And he was a great guy. So all these things, now when you're a CFO or CEO, you don't take care of each transaction by yourself. So you need to give your team the tools and the capabilities to be able to govern the data accurately. And you can only do it today with AI.
Got it. So talking about like public companies and different sizes of companies, who's an ideal prospect for you?
I think companies with, I would say, $75 million in revenues and above, they're starting, at least in their order to cash processes and sometimes in other processes like accounts payable, you want to start leveraging automation. Now, uh, uh, I think today, even if you have the capacity to hire a team, I think using automation allows you to first make sure that the automation allows you to rely on the fact that automation covers every single transaction, unlike human beings. Also, human being can make error, and I think also you want to power your team not to make this tedious repeating work of checking data at the most granular level between all the sources of truth and the various systems and the documents. So I think a combination of many reasons, and now that we have the capability, uh, enables even relatively early stage companies, let's say again, 75, $100 million in revenues and above, to benefit from automation, which allows them then to prepare for scale, to be more efficient with people, and to be able to find that's the most important issue, to be able to identify and find errors and issues in real time and
Cool.
remediate them.
So if someone's listening to this and they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to engage with your company?
www.safebooks.ai. They can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn, Ahikam Kaufman, Safebooks AI, or leave their contact information on our website.
Awesome. Well, Icom, this has been really interesting learning about your solution at Safebooks, and I look forward to watching the growth and success of your company.
Thank you so much, Walter.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
so
Thanks
much. I
for being
truly
with us
appreciate
today.
that.
You're welcome.